This is Jeffrey Babbitt, and this is Immune to Your Consultations, Listening for the Young Adult in the Public Library. The title is from a David Bowie song that you might be familiar with. I thought about including a clip in the presentation, thinking it might fall under fair use, but I decided not to do that. The public library where I did my observation is planning to remodel their teen room. So I thought I would explore the issue of young adult space in the public library. They'll be gutting the staff space for a large mess-proof program space behind a giant garage door, which sounds pretty cool. But it struck me that they don't have a formal relationship right now with local young adults. They've had a teen advisory board in the past, but haven't had one for the past year or two. I followed up with questions about whether and how the lead teen librarian communicated with local young adults, but I asked too late to get a reply. I noticed a couple of things while researching young adult space in the library. One, young adults have had a bad reputation in society as a whole. They're referred to as unstable, frivolous, untrustworthy. Many early public libraries, even before the invention of the adolescent in 1904, had age limits to keep out the youth. After the age limits were abandoned and more public libraries began adding children's rooms, teens were still often left out. That changed with the work of YA librarians like Margaret A. Edwards, who wrote the classic The Fair Garden and the Swarm of Beasts, The Library and the Young Adult in 1969. But even the new breed of YA librarian sometimes gets it wrong. This is from an article called Beyond Books, Nooks, and Dirty Looks, The History and Evolution of Library Services to Teens in the United States. It's from the Journal of Research on Libraries and Young Adults. It says, YA librarians sometimes convey a disturbing core message which seems to say that adults are not cool enough to relate to teens and teen culture. It is, therefore, up to YA librarians to demystify this exotic tribe in order to prevent their colleagues from undoing any progress previously made with this group. The problem is that portraying the young adult as too cool for you to understand is not helpful and in some ways is just as damaging as the negative opinions from the past. And more than once in the literature, YA librarians did not actually understand young adults as well as they thought they did. For example, in some of the articles I read, the librarians tended to focus on what's in the space, whereas teens focused on what happens in the space. In a couple of the studies, librarians tended to think that gaming programs were just a natural for teens, but the teens in the same studies didn't care about gaming. Librarians in one study thought that teens wanted to socialize. This is part of the common understanding of young adults in this country, but the teens wanted to spend time alone in the public library space. And the librarians thought that teens would want a separate space from adults and young children, but the teens didn't seem to care about that so much. And this is from a YALSA position paper. Libraries must reevaluate space allocations in their overall facilities and scale them according to demographics and overall community needs, not traditional practice or personal bias. And I think that we often go with traditional practice or personal bias because, as one of my confidential informants at Urban Library X said, it's just easier to make decisions within the staff than to really connect and listen to the community. But that is what needs to be done, no matter how cool a YA librarian you might be. And these are the references from this. It's not a complete list of everything that's in my paper, but it's everything that I drew from for this presentation. And that's all I have. Thank you.